It is Sunday, June 15th, 2025. Now, I mentioned in the video I did last night for the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army that I attended a No Kings Protest yesterday. So this is going to be my AAR, my Afteraction review of that protest. I'm going to let you know some of the details on what I did for it, some of the arrangements that were set up, and what did I see, what occurred. Now, before I get into it, I need to mention that a lot of us figured the chance of a mass casualty event at one of these protests was extremely high. Luckily, nothing occurred. That does not mean that these were peaceful. A lot of these did get violent, especially in Democrat-held cities. I heard that the demonstrations were called riots, declared riots by local police in New York City, Chicago, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Portland. And I think there were a couple other cities that were declared riots also. I just can't remember them right now. At those locations, the demonstrators got a little bit rowdy, a little bit looting. And reportedly, as the police closed in, they did start throwing projectiles at the cops, glass bottles, rocks, bricks, whatever they could get a hold of. The cops responded with rubber bullets and tear gas. There were arrests made, no word as to total numbers yet. There were reports that in Los Angeles, shots were traded with some of the rioters. Some of the rioters started shooting at cops, live ammunition. Cops returned fire. Small firefight occurred. No details on what happened at the end, if anyone was injured, if anyone was arrested, how many, and their information. No info on that. There were reports of a shooting in Salt Lake City, Utah. It sounds like 4 individuals were involved. It really sounds like an argument came up and they decided to settle the argument by pulling firearms and proving who was right. 1 person died. It sounds like 2 went to the hospital. 1 person is still at large being sought by the police. Another incident that occurred was in Virginia. There's reports of a car or vehicle being used to run over some of the protesters. Not much info on this one. It kind of sounds like someone got upset with the protesters, and then as the protesters were leaving, my guess is the driver told them get the hell out of the way. They wouldn't do it fast enough, and it sounds like the driver gunned it and tried hitting some of the protesters. I do not know if the person was arrested, what their official reasoning was, or anything. No info has been coming out on that one. It could have been just a road rage incident, not a politically motivated thing. The worst event that occurred was up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. You had 2 political assassinations from the same individual. An individual by the name of Vance Luther Belter. He reportedly went to the homes of 2 different Democrat politicians, DFLers, in Minnesota, shot both of the politicians and killed them, also shot their spouses. Now, at the second shooting, police showed up because after they went to the one location, they talked about it. One of the officers brought up, hey, there's another politician who lives over here so many miles away. Let's go check on that person. They went to that house. They literally caught the assassin coming out of the house. Firefight ensued between the assassin and law enforcement. The assassin slipped out a back door and is still at large. Reportedly, the assassin was dressed up as a police officer, was wearing a silicone face mask to conceal identity. Now, I pointed out when I heard about this stuff on Telegram, I'm not really surprised. This person is a Belter. The Belter family is, if it is part of the, he's part of the same one, the Belter family up in the Twin Cities are not poor people. They own multiple businesses that are multi-million dollar businesses. This is not a poor family. He would have had the money to be able to get the items to do this assassination. We're not talking some poor leftist who's living at his friend's house on his friend's couch. There's money involved in this. The media is going both directions. The leftist media is trying to portray him as a MAGA supporter, big-time Trump supporter, a patriotic nut job. The conservative media is trying to portray him as a left-wing radical. What's the truth? We do not know yet. A manifesto was recovered from the assassin's vehicle. No information has been released at the time that I'm filming this as to what's in this manifesto. Reportedly, they also recovered a hit list with different politicians on it, and reportedly the addresses and locations of other targets like abortion clinics, but that I kind of have questions on because that only seems to be mentioned by the leftist media. It's not being mentioned by the conservative media. So you get this feeling that that might be something they added in there to paint the person as this big MAGA nut job. Now, latest updates on Belter. The vehicle that he used to escape from the Twin Cities has been recovered. It was captured this morning around, I think it was Green Isle in Sibley County. Sibley County is southwest of the Twin Cities. It is in farm country. So it's a lot of wide open area. There is locations of trees and that stuff because of farmsteads and a few ravines and streams and that stuff, but for the most part it's wide open country, which is planted in corn right now, which is not very high, and it shouldn't be for a few more weeks. So he's still on the run. There was a report that Belter's wife was caught leaving the Twin Cities with passports for her and her husband, along with $50,000 in cash and other suspicious items. But that report I cannot confirm because I have not seen that in the media reports, but someone was posting that in the chat this morning that that had occurred. But I'm mentioning that for just in case. So who knows on that one? We'll find out. That situation is still developing. Reportedly, the assassin did have pages in the front seat of the car with No Kings printed on it, run off of a fax machine. So it looks like this person was planning to be at the rally or had them inside the vehicle as a plant. I don't know. We have no info. But that was recovered. Now, the particular rally that I was at, how did this come about? Kaz, the Italian hillbilly, did a video last week warning about this No Kings event on Saturday the 14th. I went to the website, zoomed in on my state and my particular area of the state, and I checked to see what protests were going on around me. I found more of them than I anticipated. Most of them I could kind of understand because they were in communities that, you know, they're extremely liberal. They basically try to be the San Francisco of the Midwest. Other communities, I know they would be on there because of and everyone knows they're there, higher percentages of illegal aliens. And they're there because of the agricultural industry. Either they're pickers, planters, or they work in processing plants. But those particular communities, everyone knows there's a lot of illegals in there. If they speak Spanish, it's probably a safe bet the ones in those communities are illegal and not U.S. citizens. And they are really open about they have no intention of becoming U.S. citizens. They consider themselves Mexican citizens or Honduran or El Salvadoran or wherever. They do not consider themselves Americans and have no intention to become Americans. So the protests in those communities, I was not surprised on. I figured those would be anti-ICE protests. The most shocking to me was there was a protest in the community not too far from where my homestead is. I chose this particular area for a homestead because it is a relatively safe area. That particular community votes over 90% conservative or Republican. And then it's less than 10% vote Democrat. There is very few leftists in that community, damn few communists or socialists in that community. But for some reason, there was a protest there. So I started contacting people I know that live in and around that immediate town and started giving them a heads up. I gave them the location where it was at according to the website and the times of the protest. I found out from talking to one person that I know that they had to work on Saturday. And that protest was literally outside the front door of where they work. They could not get out of shift. And their boss was not willing to shut down for that day. They were not willing to be intimidated by the protesters. Other businesses did close for the day just to be cautious, just in case things got spicy. But that particular one did not. So I started making plans with this person on what they could do. They agreed to carry their phone with them at all times during the day. If anything did happen, things start going bad, they had to immediately get out of that business, take as many people with them as they could, patrons and fellow employees, and move out and go somewhere safe. We agreed on a potential rally point that was relatively close, relatively safe. I'm not going to say what that rally point was. I told them their priority, things start going bad, lock the front doors, go out a side door, go out the back door, whatever, get the fuck out of the building, go to that rally point, let the police come in and handle the situation. And once they were at the rally point, they needed to contact me and let me know what was going on. I told them I would come in rolling hot. Now, if they got trapped inside that business, I would stop at a agreed upon location. I would gear up, move forward, and I would start stacking bodies to create an exit for my friend to be able to get out of that business with as many people as possible, hold back any attackers. While they were doing that, once we got to a safe area, got to the rally point, provide first aid, contact medical support, and hopefully law enforcement would be taking care of the situation as we pulled out. So we had that set up. I talked to a few others, and we came up with a plan to do overwatch of that protest. And as we talked to people we know in other militias and other groups in the area, we found out they were going to be doing the same thing because of being too close to the protest because of where they lived, or family members lived near where the protests were happening, or they were working in that area, whatever it was. They were going to be doing basically the same thing we did. Now, we came up with a plan, decided on where we would post that would give us good cover and concealment, that we could overwatch the protest, and if anything went bad, we could provide suppressing fire from those locations to keep down whatever the situation was. So if a mass shooter happened, we could respond. If they started getting really violent and they were starting to shoot at people, whatever, we could put in suppressing fire to try to contain them. We did come up with a standardized uniform we would wear. We went tactical gray man, but we agreed on particular things that we would wear so that we could visually identify each other from a distance. Because one person on one side of a protest ain't necessarily going to be able to see the face of someone on the other side, but they'll see the gunfire. But hey, we recognize the clothing. Okay, that's one of us. It's not one of the attackers. I won't give you the exact specifics on this, but we agreed on cargo pants of an earth tone color. We all wore the same. We all had on jackets because of weather that day. And then inside our vehicles, we had our uniform tops along with plate carriers, load-bearing equipment, weapons, protective masks in case tear gas would be employed, helmets, and radios. We kept in touch during the protest with cell phones because a cell phone would draw less attention than us using a Baofeng or any other type of radio to communicate. Protester would see you with a cell phone, figuring, hey, you're just posting on your TikTok or whatever. Now, the particular location I chose was the primary parking area for the business my friend was working at. I had a particular location that I chose the day before for getting good eyes on the exits from the business in case they would come running out as fast as possible. It would also give me good eyes on the protest and eyes on another parking lot that I figured would be used by the protesters. I arrived, say about 20 minutes before the protest. I was able to get the exact spot I wanted in that parking lot. I parked there, stayed inside my vehicle, and I observed the protesters as they arrived. Now, the protesters, what I seen for the makeup of them, well over half of them were senior citizens. These were people that were so old, I have no doubts that they were probably Vietnam War protesters in the 60s and 70s. All of them looked unhealthy as shit. They looked like walking skeletons. It's a sure bet that they were vaxxed and boosted multiple times and probably still get boosted. Of the ones that were younger, the ones that were Gen X and millennials, they were coming in and they also looked unhealthy as hell. The males probably averaged in weight over 300 pounds and the females averaged at least 180 to 250 pounds. We're talking land whales. There were a few Gen Zers, a few teenagers that were there, primarily Kool-Aid colored hair, communist tattoos, nose rings and that stuff. And quite frankly, I think every last one of them that I seen in those two parking lots, they looked like they were high on drugs as they were going to the protest. Now, I did see some individuals that I was extremely suspicious of when they arrived. One was what I thought was a Hispanic female, but my friend was able to get a closer look when they walked past the business. They said this person looked like they were more of Indian, as in from New Delhi type India, not Native American Indian. And with them was a child. This woman was wearing stereotype Mexican woman dress, and this child, who was no way over 12 years old, was a male wearing stereotype Mexican male clothing. The only thing missing from the stereotype was a sombrero and pulling a donkey behind him on a rope. We're talking stereotype shit. They were coming up and I seen that their sign was the whole, this is our country, we're not, no one is illegal. That's the sign that they were carrying when they were coming up. Most of the signs that I seen the protesters pulling out of their vehicles were what you would expect. Fuck Donald Trump, fuck DJT, fuck fascists, kill Nazis, the usual stuff. Plenty of signs, especially with the older senior citizens I seen coming in. They were carrying signs saying, Trump destroys everything. Trump is ruining our country. And they don't mean yours and mine. They mean theirs. That was a huge theme at this protest from what I seen. When they got out of their vehicles, a lot of them had American flags. We're talking brand new. They were pulling them out of the wrappers when they were pulling them out of the vehicles. Most of them were the types of flags that you see people hang on the front of their houses already attached to the poles. So they were pulling them out, taking them out of the wrappers and unrolling them. Others were literally pulling the plastic packages out of their vehicle, taking the flag out, unfolding, didn't care if they touched the ground, and then they were attaching them to sticks to carry with them. Every one of the flag poles I seen were thick enough and heavy duty enough they could be used as weapons. We're not talking lath here. We're talking a little bit heavier lumber. Not 2x4s, but stuff thinner than a 2x2, but it was still pretty stout. Broomsticks and that type of stuff. Thicker handles from like garden tools. Metal handles from the house flags. So they were coming in, probably anticipating they might have to use those as weapons. I did not see anyone showing up in black bloc uniform. No visible weapons were sighted as they were coming in for the protest. I got word from the others that were observing the protesters from other angles. Same basic type of situation. No visible weapons. No visible black bloc Antifa. We did notice some show up that are of a group that we've been trying to keep tabs on. We have been noticing over the last year to 2 years more males showing up from Central America. These are clearly unaccompanied and they're clearly military aged and appearance. The way they cut their hair and everything. We did see a few of them show up. They primarily stayed off to the side while they were there. Now, there was also, I found this out from my friend, they noticed this looking out the window from their business when they could. Right before the protest started, a bus showed up and about 20 to 25 individuals got off of this bus. And the person who was clearly in charge of the protest got off this bus with them. This was a middle-aged female, probably millennial to Gen X, with a bullhorn. It was pretty obvious she was running the situation. She was the one who was telling people where to go before the protest began. She was the one who was dictating the chants that everyone followed. Now, I'll mention this. The picture down here is not of the protest I was at. This is actually one that was in the news. This is kind of what we were seeing, the general situation. There were plenty of old ladies like this with pink pussy hats. Senior citizens like this. You know, it did not look like a healthy crowd. About 15 minutes into the protest, that's when the chanting began. They first started out with anti-Trump slogans. And then it kind of settled on a chant that they did through the whole thing of, our country, no peace. Now, they don't mean our as this is American. They meant theirs, leftist, communist, socialist. They may have been wearing some Patriot clothing, and the ones I seen wearing the Patriot clothing, it was very obvious this was brand new stuff they were wearing for the first time. I doubt they even washed it before they put it on that morning. Even though they had American flags and that stuff, there was a very heavy pro-illegal immigration vibe about that rally. signs, you know, that no person is illegal, that type of stuff. So we had that going on. About 30 minutes into the rally, that's when kids started to arrive. And I posted that on Telegram, and I warned the others in Overwatch. They were seeing the same thing. Halfway into the rally, we started seeing young kids, less than 5 years of age, toddlers, start being brought in. At that point, our pucker factor went up. We figured if something was going to happen, it was probably going to be after those kids showed up. About 10-15 minutes later, the parking lot that I was at, I had an individual show up on a ninja style motorcycle, parked off to the side, but literally right in my line of view. And this person got off the motorcycle, took off their leather jacket. They had literal gray man stuff underneath, gray hoodie and that type of stuff, and sweatpants on. I seen this individual put two things in the pocket of their jacket. One was most likely a cell phone. The other item seriously looked to me like a pocket pistol, small caliber, semi-automatic. I put out the warning to the others, and I kept watch on that person. When that person got the stuff in their pocket, they did a look around the parking lot, seen me staring right at them. They walked up to the protest. I did not see if they met up with the head of the protest or what was going on. Were there about 5 minutes, walked back to their motorcycle, watching me as they did it, put their leather jacket back on, put their helmet back on, did not take the stuff out of the pocket, and got the fuck out of that parking lot as quick as they could without drawing too much attention. Is it possible that that person was about to do something? I do not know. For all I know, that person was showing up, was armed, because they anticipated that, say, right-wingers might show up. You might have some neo-Nazis show up and start beating down peaceful protesters. I do not know. We continued to monitor the situation. We kept eyes on the group. Near the end of the rally, say the last 5-10 minutes, that's when some of the land whales started walking away. And, you know, you could see them gasping for air as they were walking back to their vehicles and gasping for that grease from their soy burgers when they get back home. When the end time for the protest happened, it literally shut right off. But before it did, they went into a chant of no peace, no peace, no peace, no peace, no peace, and did that for like 5 minutes. And then when the rally ended, I was in my vehicle again by this point. I got out a few times to get a better eyes on and that stuff. I stayed behind cover in case something would occur, stayed relatively close to my vehicle that I could run back to it, throw my gear on, grab my weapons, my rifle and sidearm. But I watched them as they walked off, threw their stuff in the vehicle, and it was pretty obvious they didn't give a shit about the American flag. They were literally opening up the trunks, opening up the back of their vehicles, just tossing them right on the floor, didn't fucking care, tossing their signs in on top of them, and then left. Now, at the end of the rally, my friend did get their lunch break, and they had made arrangements with their supervisor to leave for lunch, not stay at the business. So met up with me, we talked about the situation, and then as we were driving out of the parking lot, we came across a group of some of the protesters. And we said as we were driving by, we lowered the windows, we told them, remember, Trump 2028, and they were shocked. These people seen me when they showed up, seen me standing behind them, watching them. And it never occurred to them that I wasn't one of them. When they seen me drive off, they seen me say Trump 2028, they had the look of deer in headlights on their faces. They were shocked. So this once again showed me that a lot of these people are fucking drones. They are NPCs. They are not observant of their environment around them. So after the situation was done, we talked stuff over and that over cell phones. We were texting back and forth to each other, comparing notes and that type of stuff, talking about people that we noticed there, people that are of concern in our area, or at least people that we keep a little bit of an eye on, who showed up at the rally. There were some that did show up that we know are, they're very in your face that they're communist. So we were not surprised that they showed up. We're actually surprised they didn't show up waving Soviet flags or red Chinese flags. But they were in attendance. And like I said, the Central Americans. Now, Combat Cameraman was not there. Combat Cameraman actually stayed at his place, and he was monitoring TV, news feeds on there, monitoring the computer, news feeds on there, and reportedly was also monitoring his phone to watching news feeds there. He was trying to see if anything got violent. He was going to notify us. And if anything happened, we were going to contact him so that he could potentially get out word to other groups if we needed backup. So he was kind of in the TOC position, the Tactical Operations Center of our little Overwatch. So overall, the rally did say peaceful. It was a protest. It did not get to a riot. Luckily, I will say people did show up as counter-protesters. One of the most hilarious things I seen was about 15-20 minutes before the end of the rally. You had some people show up on Harleys with Trump flags attached to their Harleys. They literally stopped right in front of the protesters and were revving their engines as loud as they could to drown out the chanting. You also had a few Gen Z kids come through with pickup trucks and American flags and Trump flags tied to the back. There was a few of them that did that, and as they were going by, they were honking, flipping off the protesters. That was hilarious also. But there you go. That's the AAR, the situation. The one thing that I would change, which did occur to me during the protest as I was sitting there. First off, we should have carried pepper spray or OC with us, a small canister on our persons, inside pockets. Didn't occur that we should bring that non-lethal option with us. We were planning on primarily if things went worst case scenario, which luckily it did not. Each of us did carry additional first aid supplies in our cargo pockets. I had additional compression dressings and one abdominal dressing in my cargo pockets. And the others were doing similar type things, carrying either fuel dressings or compression dressings and that stuff with them for if need be, along with IFAKs. Everyone had IFAKs. It was on our equipment. Could be quickly, easy accessed. I also had a combat lifesaver bag in my vehicle too if things got that bad, if we did end up in a mass casualty event. Other change that should be made for the future. Something that did not occur to us till afterwards was hearing protection. We had iPro with us for if things would be tossed. We had protective masks with us in case we would come across a fog of tear gas. We did not think to bring hearing protection with us. That was something we thought about afterwards, that, hey, if we did get up into a firefight, we're in an urban environment, the sound, the retort of our weapons is going to get multiplied, bounce back and forth between concrete and brick buildings. It's going to be a lot worse than out in the woods. And yeah, so that's also a change for next time, something to think about. Either having a pair of earplugs you can put in quick, or some type of headset that you can connect into your radio that you can toss over your ears to protect them if shots have to be fired. We did not coordinate with the local police department because we figured if we did that, the police might consider us to be potential assailants and might do something either before the rally began when we showed up, or during the rally they would look for us and haul us off and arrest us. I did not put out a notice about the rallies and that stuff beforehand for OPSEC reasons. I realized that if I put it out there, especially in a video, that I was going to attend one of these rallies, and if the intel agencies do for sure know who I am, that the particular rally I go to probably would have got bloody, and then my face would have been plastered all over the news as a militia violent extremist attacks peaceful protesters. So I did not put out a notice about this event and these protests and that I was attending on purpose. And I'm guessing that was probably a good thing. I talked with some people, the people afterwards, the others that were there. They said that, yeah, it was a real good thing that you didn't mention it, because things probably would have got real bad real fast and we would have got blamed. So there you go. That's my AAR and breakdown of the situation, what I seen at the protest. Did I think their protest was effective? No, basically it was a bunch of leftists whining that they lost the election, complaining about Trump stole democracy, and by democracy they meant their version of democracy, not the way democracy actually works. We have a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And the constitutional republic, our election system worked this last election. Do I agree with Trump and everything he does? No, I do not. But I do accept that if Harris and Walz had gotten in there, quite frankly, what we would be seeing right now, we would be looking more like communist China during the Cultural Revolution than what America looks like right now. It'd be a lot more violent. A lot of us would be getting rounded up. Our rights would be being stripped piece by piece by piece in huge chunks under the auspices of it's for public safety, it's for national security. And I also believe that inflation would have quadrupled from what we were already dealing with under Mr. Potato Head. So the people that were attending this rally were complaining, and I don't think they even realize what truthfully they were complaining about. They were just upset that their side didn't win the last election. Do I think the possibility of a false flag occurring is still likely? Yes, I do. I think the chance of it right now has gone down for a while because everyone was watching for it yesterday, but it is still a possibility, an action that could be done. The question is where. We'll see what happens as summer goes along here. I got a feeling we will see a lot more protests occurring and a lot more rioting, especially in the larger cities. So, should militia do the same thing as we did at future rallies, at future protests? That is entirely up to you. You need to keep in mind things can go bad quickly, and you can be the one that gets blamed for whatever goes wrong. So be careful. Stay gray man until things go bad, and then that's when you come out and do what needs to be done. Do not provoke people. Do not act stupid. If you're going to be seen, blend in. I recommend that. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot Militia movements, always remember, essay ons.